ultimately we're not in a rush to scale anything up. We would just want to make sure that we're doing everything properly and in a conscious way so that we don't make any egregious errors. Because of course, in this charity sector, you don't get many second chances to make a good first impression. So yeah, we're looking to be quite cautious.
Welcome back, everybody. Rich Brubaker, founder of Collective Responsibility, here today with another episode of the Mission Driven Podcast. Through this podcast, I'm speaking with mission-driven entrepreneurs, academics, investors, the ecosystem about solving the grand challenges that we face in our economy, environment, community. These conversations are all about inspiring and equipping the next generation of aspiring entrepreneurs, investors, academics, like just individuals who want to get into the space, use their time, use their resources to solve these big problems. In this episode, I'm extremely honored to be joined by Alasdair Pocock, who is the founder of Socially Responsible, an early-stage organization that's developing a range of technology-based solutions to promote local charitable engagement across individuals and corporations in Hong Kong. He's been a resident of Hong Kong for a while. He's a busy man traveling around, but he's built this great platform where basically individuals and organizations can come together and have a little bit more engagement within the city of Hong Kong itself. So, Alasdair, it's great to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Richard.
All right, man. So as we always do, tell me a little about yourself and the mission that you're on.
Sure thing. So, as you said, I've been in Hong Kong for quite some time now. I think a little bit over 8 years. Originally came here to study my master's degree. I've been working in the lithium-ion battery technology space for the past 7 years. And yeah, over the past, I think 3 or 4 years, I've been working on a side project where we're building technology infrastructure for donation and fundraising in Hong Kong.
So this side project is called So Responsible. What is it? What's the size, scope? What are you trying to achieve? And where are you along the path of this side hustle?
So when we set out to build socially responsible around 3 years ago, we wanted to really resolve some of the key frictions in donation in Hong Kong. There are a number of different platforms across the world. There's Milli Giving, for example, down in Australia. Benevity is one that I think a lot of people will be familiar with in the space. We wanted to set something up in Hong Kong that does similar, basically to drive donation rates in Hong Kong. Ultimately, the structure of the Hong Kong charity sector makes it a little bit more challenging to set something like this up. And that's why it's taken us quite so long to get things up and running. But we've been developing two types of solutions. One was our kind of proof of concept, which was a donation app, and that's for everybody. So for focusing on individuals in Hong Kong. And we're about to launch our corporate platform. So this is a platform that connects the workforce with donating to high impact, locally focused charities in Hong Kong, and then also gives the opportunity for the employer to match those donations and then also capture the data from their workforce when they do engage in that kind of activity.
Cool. Now you're 6-7 years in your professional life, young guy. Why do this now? Like, what was there? Was there a pivotal moment, a catalyst that led you to say, okay, look, I got to do this on the side. I still have to pay my bills, but you're like, this is something that Hong Kong needs. This is something that I want to build.
I think one thing that that pulled me in this direction was growing up with quite severe dyslexia. I was a beneficiary of a lot of charitable resources in my youth. I've always been passionate about support for young people with disabilities. It was maybe 3 or 4 years ago when I was volunteering at Love 21, supporting them in their fitness classes for young people experiencing disabilities, where I realized that there's a lot of volunteers, but I think they were quite struggling at the time for access to donation and more or less funding for their operations. So I wanted to basically fill the gap there. There was an issue that I was thinking of, which volunteering with my time. There's only a certain amount of scalability there. I wanted to dedicate my time to something a bit more scalable that can actually have a broader impact on the space in Hong Kong. So that's what basically spurred me to develop this solution for Hong Kong.
In that vein, like Love 21, I know them really well. Like Jeff, actually, he's been on this podcast. He's booming right now. Hong Kong has a great ecosystem for NGOs. So what was the problem that you seek to solve? Because I feel like it's actually a pretty efficient place to be. So what was it that you saw, and how are you trying to address that through socially responsible.
Yeah, I totally agree that the Hong Kong charity sector is definitely doing well, particularly on the volunteering side. I would say that Hong Kong has a very strong culture of volunteering. There are some aspects to the charity sector in Hong Kong which are a little bit different to other sectors across different territories. So in Hong Kong, there's the concept of subvention. So the government will directly support a number of different charities in Hong Kong. There are the vast majority of charities that do not have any government support directly themselves. I think there's around 10,000 charities in Hong Kong, and only a very, very small proportion are directly supported by the government. You also have charities that are famous or very well known. They have very strong marketing, for example. But the vast majority of charities don't have that kind of bandwidth. They're typically relatively small. They have a high impact in their local community, but they don't invest too much in getting the word out there. So what we've endeavored to do is basically curate an environment similar to that of the volunteering culture here, whereby we're looking to basically break down some of the frictions that are associated with donation in Hong Kong. There's at this time there's no real technology-based solutions to donate. We also want to basically provide a marketplace for charities to promote themselves in a fair and sort of democratic way. And so giving them a platform to do that, I think, is quite important.
So it's kind of like a global giving, but for Hong Kong.
Just for Hong Kong at the moment, yes.
Okay, cool. Um, Walk me through. You had this realization. You decide something needs to be done. What was the product development cycle from there? Like, who did you talk to? How did you validate? Did you just do a full build to launch it? Like, what was the starting process?
Sure. So actually, it was quite some time ago. I was in a wine bar in Pun, and I ran into a lady by the name of Sue Toomey. Yeah. So I pitched Sue my idea, and she connected with it at the time and thought it would be a good project to kick off in Hong Kong. So I got to work basically structuring what I wanted to achieve, how we would achieve it, and got to building some screens on Figma. So the easiest way to develop an app. So I kicked that off, and then I approached an organization called Synpulse, who are based out of Switzerland, as I understand, and they develop commercial banking infrastructure for the likes of HSBC and other major financial institutions. And I pitched them my idea, and they liked the concept. So they were happy to support us on that, and they built that out for us. In terms of the process, it gets a little bit complex in Hong Kong because of the nature of the Section 88 certifications. It makes it so that you can't just raise money as a charity to build these kind of infrastructures. So we had to build it under a private enterprise structure to begin with, and then we would go through the relevant charity Section 88 certification process. So that is extremely lengthy. And I'm glad that we did all the development up front, because they came to us with some really pretty detailed questions about how the platforms would look, how they would operate. They're really pretty strict with those Section 88 certifications. So yeah, had we not done it this way, we probably wouldn't have been able to do it at all.
So you mentioned they did the development was done at cost. That came out of your pocket. You fundraised. How did you even put together the seed for the funding on this?
It came from a combination of my own money, and then that of my co-founder Lucas, and a couple of investors that shared our vision for what we were developing. So we've invested about $100,000 into the project thus far. We anticipate we may need to stump up a little bit more cash to get it over the line. But the idea was that it was worth it to basically build this kind of technology for Hong Kong, and I'm just very grateful that we were able to identify some people that shared that vision.
So that process kind of went smoothly. What were some of the challenges? Actually, I mean, you kind of alluded Section 88, which is basically the charitable tax status underneath the Inland Revenue Department for Hong Kong. What were some of the other big challenges that you faced during this initial phase, and like what was your process for overcoming them?
Over the past several years, challenges crop up all the time. Of course, getting the charities on board was actually the one of the earlier challenges we had. I think, coming from outside of the sector, uh, I think a lot of people are a little bit suspicious about, what our aim is and what we're endeavoring to do. We managed to win over a few key stakeholders in that regard, and once you have a few charities on board, it gets a bit easier to win over some more. Basically, it was just about giving them a thorough introduction to what we're doing. And I think, the key thing about our platform that's attractive to those charities is we don't actually charge them anything. To be on the platform, we don't take a cut of the donations. We're going to be funding ourselves via the data provision for the corporate. So when employees basically engage with our platform, we capture all of that data and we charge the companies for it. So that was one particular challenge. Of course, funding is always a key challenge for startups. We were able to, along the way, find further investors at different points to help us sort of build out the next phase in the development process and things like that as well. So yeah, it's a little bit ad hoc, building something like this. So you just need to keep pushing on and stick with the mission and the vision, and then just do what you can to keep going.
And then on product validation, like, okay, you had a conversation with Sue, who was actually director of Hands On, which is an organization I was a part of as well. How else did you validate it? Like, you're having these conversations with, your early adopters. What was the process for even like pitching them? And what feedback were you getting early on that like basically helped you to iterate and to make those adjustments that you think will be kind of long-term valuable, but maybe short-term painful to the ego to accept?
Yeah, I think one thing that was quite difficult to accept was that the app wasn't really something that there was a big demand for in Hong Kong. I think getting people to download an app and actually engage in donations is actually quite a big challenge, especially if you don't have a big marketing budget to get it out there. From the corporate platform perspective, validation is an ongoing thing. Of course, I've had numerous conversations with different leaders of different corporate organizations here in Hong Kong. But of course, the charitable donation approaches in these large organizations is pretty well established. And so getting everybody to adopt a new way of approaching charitable donations from top to bottom. We're endeavoring to democratize this kind of donation across the company rather than just having it in the hands of few key people. So there's a lot of stakeholder engagement going on. But we understand that this is a product that's worked in markets all over the world, particularly in the Western world, and in Hong Kong we have a lot of Western companies here. So we're of the view that actually there's a good opportunity here for us to basically adjust the culture and then also drive improvements for the workforce, because of course, as I'm sure I think there was a study from McKinsey which highlighted that when employees feel that the company provides them with a sense of purpose, they're a lot more engaged with their work. So we're using that as a basis to help support our arguments as well, getting our product into these companies.
What's the change of behavior that you're trying to create though? Is it just that individuals through the company account are giving money, and then you're basically saying like, look, you would normally give this individually and you normally get the receipt as an individual against your personal tax? Like, what's the actual behavior change? Or is it just using technology instead of the old way? Like, what's the actual behavior change that you're trying to affect?
So I think in Hong Kong, everybody's extremely busy. Most people engage in charitable donations once a year, and that's when they get their tax form coming in. We want to sort of bring charitable donation more front and center in people's minds, and by bringing that to their basically their laptop, they can and also giving them a better understanding of what's out there that aligns with what they care about as well. So a lot of people don't have enough time to really investigate the kind of charities that there are going around in Hong Kong. So we want to make it easier, basically make it easier to donate, to handle their tax deductible receipts, because of course, if you've been donating over the course of the year, it's going to be very difficult for you to squirrel together all of these different receipts that you've taken in over the course of the last 12 months. So we're wanting to make everything a little bit easier and a bit sort of one-stop shop, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And I mean, the fact that you're trying to target like the smaller groups, are these groups that have Section 88, or they're actually going to use your Section 88 to benefit as well? Like, what's drawing them into it, or is it just they're kind of funding wise struggling, and why not get on this just in case I can get an extra $1,000 a year?
Yeah, so we're only working with Section 88 registered charities. The reason being is that, of course, we need to be a little bit careful about the kind of charities that we work with. The government is basically applies a pretty keen eye on these charities. There's a process to basically understand how much they're actually using for their operations, how much they're applying to the cause that they're endeavoring to support. And then also these charities, they need to provide basically a financial overview of how they're discharging their funds in every year, which is actually a really good thing for us because it means that we don't need to apply as much oversight to the charities that we support. So, of course, as I said, there's maybe around 10,000 charities in Hong Kong at the moment, and so there's a huge number of them. We obviously aren't going to be able to support all of them, but we're really looking to focus on the ones that basically create a big impact in their community, do a lot of on the ground work, and fill the gaps in basically in the areas that aren't served by the Hong Kong government. Of course, there is a degree of safety net here in Hong Kong, but there are some pretty serious gaps in service.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're struggling for money like everybody else. And I guess that kind of brings up the point, like, what's the funding situation now for nonprofits in Hong Kong? Like, is this now a good time to be raising money, or is it like is it winter like it is everywhere else in Southeast Asia? What's the general vibe right now for charities?
Yeah, well, I think it's a bit feast and famine. I mean, in terms of the general economic outlook for Hong Kong, it's a little more uncertain than it was 5 years ago. I think people have been tightening their belts. Of course, property prices have come down a little bit, and so discretionary spending is a little bit below what it would have been a number of years ago. So of course, this also feeds through to the charities. Of course, when people are cutting down their expenditure, despite having the benefit of these tax deductibles, having money coming out of your account can be, it doesn't matter if you get it back in 12 months. I think for a lot of people, so I think there's also another element to this in the sense that a lot of charities are funded through a project basis. So they've got enough money to actually serve their cause, but maybe not enough money to keep the lights on. And so basically to unlock that ring fenced funding as well, they need to get this kind of unrestricted funding in the door as well. So that's really front and center of what we're looking to resolve for those charities as well.
So what does growth look like? I mean, most of these platforms now, they're multi-city, multi-country, multi-region, blah blah blah. You're focused on Hong Kong. Like, are you looking to go super deep in Hong Kong, or are you looking to, work with 100 and then move on to ASEAN? Like, what's your idea for how this goes forward?
So ultimately, first we want to really close around Hong Kong. The benefit of working with some of these big Western companies is that they also have headquarters in areas like Singapore. That's definitely a market that we're looking to explore as well. But ultimately, we want to sort of build our reputation, build our our functions up here in Hong Kong, get through that sort of teething phase as well, and then scale up as best as we can over time. So ultimately, we're not in a rush to scale anything up. We would just want to make sure that we're doing everything properly and in a conscious way, so that we don't make any egregious errors. Because of course, in this charity sector, you don't get many second chances to make a good first impression. So yeah, we're looking to be quite cautious.
Yeah, so I mean, on the entrepreneur's journey, what have you learned over the last, 12, 18, 24 months of building this thing out? Like, what's your experience been so far as a mission driven entrepreneur?
It's been a really interesting journey. I think as far as I one thing I would say is that it's taken us a lot longer to get things going than I anticipated at the outset. But I'm glad that we've taken our time. I think this whole concept of build fast and break things doesn't really work for the charity sector. So, I'm glad that we've taken our time to do it. The problem I found in startups, so I've done a couple of other startups in the past, is that if you are really applying a lot of pressure, it can lead to sort of breakdowns in relationships. It can lead to miscommunications. And I'm very glad to say that everybody in our organization gets on very well, and we've been able to keep things together in that respect. So, of course, it would have been nice to move things a bit faster, but we have to go at the pace of the IRD. In terms of learned lessons, yeah, I think at the outset when we wanted to do the POC, I think we maybe could have done a bit more work on the product scoping, a little bit more work on the demand for such a platform. But that's just part of the process. And unfortunately, if something doesn't necessarily connect with the market, you have to pivot, and then basically do something a little bit different that can actually serve the purpose that you're wanting to basically address, and then come up with something that creates value for a client base.
So when you need to pivot, what were some signs that you need to do it, and how long did it take you to recognize you needed to do it, and how painful was the acceptance of that?
I think it was at the point where we realized that we would have to raise quite a lot of funding to actually market the POC, for example, to do something that's B2C. You got to do a lot of brand building. You got to basically capture a lot of eyeballs. And so at a certain point, we realized that, okay, great, we've got the back end, we've got all of the technology set up. How can we utilize this to address a sort of B2B market instead? Because of course, you're instead of engaging with everybody in Hong Kong, you only need to engage with a few key people. And because myself and my co-founder are both, fully full-time employed, that made it a little bit more accessible for us. And so we're able to sort of move at our own pace and get things going in that respect. But yeah, how painful was it? I wouldn't say it was particularly bad. I think that you need to have a bit of a kind of cool head about these things. It is what it is in many respects. So it's not really worth dwelling on in too much in too many ways. So if you do come across such a roadblock and you do find yourself struggling to get something going, don't dwell on it too much. Just do your best to come up with something that's actually going to work. And if you can do that with a clear mind, you've got a better chance of doing it.
So you mentioned both of you guys are employed full time. What's it going to take for you to make the jump?
That's a very good question. I think one thing that we're looking at doing at the moment is bringing on board more experienced people from the sector. I think one of the key things that we found is that both Lucas and I not actually being or having a background in the charity sector has been a challenge, because it's a very relationship driven sector. And so we're looking to bring on board some sort of key leaders, people that have already been there and done that in the sector as well. And so we're hoping that we can get some more experienced heads on board, and we can continue to drive with our full-time roles. But at the same time, if things do scale up, I think we're both ready to jump on board, and make sure that we can drive this thing through as well. So we'll see how it goes, I think, over the next 6 to 12 months. But I think we're both prepared to make the relevant sacrifices to get this thing over the line after. And I know this whole concept of sunk cost fallacy isn't really something you should engage with, but we put a lot of time, effort, and money into this thing. So seeing it through is a key thing that we're looking to do.
Entrepreneurship is an emotional beast, as it
Absolutely.
were. And I think that's part of the challenge, like just knowing like when to go all gas no brakes, but then when to tap out. Like it's an ever evolving, I'm sure, before lunch every day, that emotional spectrum, as it were. You mentioned that you wanted to bring in some kind of more experienced people. What about like a board of advisors or mentors? Like you mentioned Sue. I mean, Sue, she's a fixture in Hong Kong, now in Singapore. Who else could you bring in? Like you don't have to pay them, right? Like, and these people who believe in your vision and want to help you move forward. Like, have you explored that? Because there's kind of some OGs like Francis, Sue, Eugenia. Like there are people that know this space really well and could be your advisors and help you move a little bit faster through that cycle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've been engaging with Matthew Gollop over at Recruit for Good, and he's been a keen supporter of ours for quite a long time. So he's actively exploring who we can bring on board at the moment as well. And yeah, it's really on the board level we're looking for that sort of close support. and particularly from individuals that have a little bit more time on their hands to help us drive things, not just at the board level, but also dedicate a bit of time for us to get things moving as well.
How you stay motivated during this time? Like there's been a bunch of setbacks, a bunch of challenges. What keeps you moving forward? And is there ever like the down moments that you're like, oh, just I'm done. This is it. I can't handle it anymore.
I think I think there are always moments where you think that you're going to have a degree of success or a breakthrough, and maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, and so a lot of that is just keeping your focus on the mission, on the vision, and what you're looking to achieve. Sometimes it helps to step back for a couple of weeks and just sort of basically categorize your thoughts and come to terms with any kind of failures or challenges that you have. But then again, coming back to the sunk cost fallacy, it's we put a lot of time and effort into it, and it's great to have passionate team members that I work with as well. So if it was just me on my own, I would have given this up a long time ago. But when you have other people counting on you and working with you, it really does help you to keep pushing through. So if it wasn't for the support of my co-founder Lucas, and then also our CTO Antti, I'm not sure we would have been able to get to where we are today. So always good to have somebody to build something with you, because when you're on your downswing, they can be there to pick you up.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of conversations between solo entrepreneurs and then who come in groups. And I've talked to one group, they had 7 founders. I've been a solo founder pretty much through all my time. It's a very different process, right? Besides emotional support, I mean, like that was a dumb idea, or I will do this one and you will do that one. So we have like some split of responsibility, and we'll kind of meet in the middle along the way. Like there's a lot of different ways that you can, you know, shoulder the burden, as it were, or celebrate the success.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I mean, Antti, Lucas, and I are very different people with very different skill sets as well. So there's a certain amount of division of labor going on as well. So for example, I don't have any real background in developing these software solutions. So had we not had Antti on the team, I think it would have been quite difficult for us to build this corporate platform, for example. We maybe would have been able to do it, but I think the quality of the software wouldn't be quite as good, and we would maybe have a bit more trouble with the bugs, etc. And then of course Lucas, he's German, so he has a slightly different viewpoint than I do on certain things. So he's very operationally focused, for example. I'm not entirely sure what I bring to the table, but for some reason it seems to work as the three of us. So no, as you identified, I mean, there's very different approaches to building a startup, but I like to do it with people that I enjoy working with, because I think that's it. Just in terms of how I work, I think that's the best way to do it.
Looking back, anything you would have done differently?
Oh, I think, yeah, there's always things you could have done differently. I think I try not to dwell too much on them. As I said earlier on, I think if we'd maybe spent a bit more time thinking about how we were going to actually get money through the door, and the kind of, I guess, the resource commitments that we would have to make on the B2C side, I think we would have maybe thought about that a bit more closely. But no, I think it's really sort of ran about as well as we could have asked for. So, there's yeah, there's been challenges, but nothing that would make me think we should have taken this in an entirely different direction. We should have taken this in an entirely different way. So, that's kind of how it is.
So speaking of direction, like what do you see in 5 years from now? Like where do you want to be? How big do you want to be? What impact do you hope that you'll have in that time?
Well, I think number one, we want to be in a broad number of different large corporates in Hong Kong. That's really our target. We want to get at least around 50,000 users onto this platform, particularly the corporate platform. That'll allow us to operate really sustainably. We'll be able to more than cover our costs. And that as well will be really helpful in terms of being able to drive donations into high impact, locally focused Hong Kong charities. So for us, we don't want to necessarily think beyond that at the moment. In 5 years' time, we very much hope that we'll be over in Singapore, for example. But ultimately, our mission is Hong Kong focused, and what we're looking to do is basically build up that capacity here. So I'd be very happy that in 5 years' time that we've got quite a large user base in Hong Kong, and being able to support all of these charities on the ground. And I hope that we can sort of build up that culture of donation in Hong Kong to match up with the volunteering culture we have here.
Last question. If you were talking to another aspiring entrepreneur on their mission, just starting their mission, what piece of advice would you give them as they get a little bit, as they're starting their process to get a little bit further along in their path?
Yeah, I think coming back to what I was saying earlier around the amount of time it takes to get things going. Don't rush yourself too much. Don't beat yourself up for taking a little bit longer than you might have initially anticipated. I think, acting too fast, you can make critical errors or mistakes. Think twice, act once, I think is maybe the right term to use for building up a startup. Of course, this one is in a very unique sector, so it's a slightly different story. But I think that's probably the best advice I could give.